Dr. Slone is alive, and I know you're wondering how that's even possible after a giant metal mech fist smashed her into the ground. But she's here, and she's got big plans for the island. Today, we're diving deep into the jungles of Season 3, and figuring out the hows, whys, and maybe even the whats of one of our favorite characters in the story, Dr. Slone. The end of this season's trailer leaves us confused as we see a mysterious sniper watching a few new characters jump out of an exploding temple, until it zooms out to show the one and only Dr. Slone. Behind her is the tank from Chapter 3 Season 2 that we believed her to be crushed in. Turns out, she survived. If we slow down the clip of collision when the mech fist went slamming down on her tank, we can see she just barely ducks inside and closes the hatch before it goes plummeting down to the depths of the cavern. But how did she get to the island? Well, taking a look at the Chapter 4 trailer, we can actually see her tank being pulled to the new island during Zero Fusion, and since the tank is located in the jungle, we can assume she didn't make it to the surface and was, just like the jungle reality, trapped beneath the surface of the island. But this begs the question, why didn't she just get out of the tank after the events of collision to get back to the surface in Chapter 3? Well, revealed in new dialogue, it seems the tank being smashed by the mech fist locked her inside and she was trapped, until someone got her out. Taking a look at her dialogue, we can see that she briefly mentions her rescuer, talking to the Slone NPC in the jungle as new Battle Pass character Relic prompts her to say this: "Just because you got me back on my feet doesn't mean I owe you." This essentially confirms that Relic, an intrepid hunter seeking the island's secrets, is the one who rescued Slone from her tank. Based on the fact that Relic is simply here on a quest for knowledge, he likely freed Slone as a means to see if she had any information to give him. It's safe to say, neither of them will care to work with each other in the future. So we just went into depth on her story leading up to now, but what are her plans going forward? And what can we expect to be seeing for Slone's story this season? To start, Slone left a ton of recordings and audio logs around the jungle during her explorations, and they reveal a lot about what she has learned and what she plans to do. I'll leave a recording of every one of these audio logs at the end of the video if you feel like listening, but for now, I'm going to cover the main points. First things first, Slone has a plan. Not just any plan, but specifically a plan for the island. She talks about how the civilization in the jungle is the key to making her plan work, but a couple of mysteries regarding this old society are in her way. The ruins are impossible to date, and the residents all seemingly vanished without a trace. Without any context to what happened, it makes it difficult for her to utilize the ruins for whatever her plan is. That is, until she discovers that this old civilization left behind a message. And for an unknown reason, Slone believes it's intended for her. I assume later on in the season we will discover this message and see what she was talking about, but for now, that's all we know about it. Slone then goes on to talk about a discovery she made. She found what looks to be an ancient telescope or stellar projector that she refers to as the apparatus. After studying it further, she realized that this was an ancient telescope that used kinetic or prisms to manipulate light. The society that lived in the jungle used this back when they were around, you know, before they vanished. The apparatus wasn't the only thing they used kinetic ore for though. They were scientists and visionaries, and used refined kinetic ore to create amazing technologies in their thriving civilization. That's everything Slone learned throughout these logs, and everything we know about her secret plan for the island. So let's start breaking it down to see if we can figure out what exactly this plan is. Whatever she's planning, it involves kinetic ore and using the apparatus, which, like I said, manipulates light. Her plan is also for the island itself. And just to clear this off the table, Slone isn't trying to rebuild the IO. When speaking to the Slone NPC while wearing Gunner, her former IO super soldier, she says, "I told you I'm done," confirming that she is no longer associating herself with the IO going forward, or, well, what's left of it. So knowing that she isn't trying to rebuild the IO, what could she possibly be trying to do, let alone for the island? Well, with how smart Slone is, she knows that protecting the 0 point is always the #1 priority. The 7 are missing, the previous islands just recently blew up, the IO crumbled a long time ago, and loopers are running wild all over the place. A huge recipe for disaster. Now, it's her duty to step up and save the island from its impending doom. And like she said, she needs to act fast, because Slone knows that the last reality is on their way. While I have no idea how she plans on protecting the island, we know that she considers the apparatus the key. Let's go back to it for a second, and bear with me here as I dive into some surface level astronomy stuff too. The apparatus is a telescope, which uses kinetic ore prisms to collect light from outer space and manipulate it for the viewer to see. That's how telescopes work. Light comes in through the lenses and bounces around into the spot where the viewer looks through. And that is how light from outer space is portrayed into the eyes of the viewer. The bigger the telescope, the higher the definition of the image that people will see when they look into it. When anything in space emits light, it takes time for that light to travel across the universe. This light, when viewed by something, is essentially an image traveling across space, showing what everything looked like during that exact point in time that the light was emitted. For Earth, when we use telescopes to look out into space, we aren't seeing things as they are at that exact moment. We are looking straight into the past, and the distance of the objects we are studying are relative to the amount of time we are looking back. Betelgeuse, a star in the constellation Orion, is about 640 light years away from planet Earth. If Betelgeuse exploded while I was recording this video, we wouldn't know about it for centuries. With that being said, whatever this old civilization was trying to look at with the telescope, it was long ago, and depending on how powerful this telescope is, it's possible they could see quite far, maybe even into other realities. Before I explain this, I want to give a shout out to my friend FN Approved Lore for bringing this theory to my attention. Using kinetic ore as the reflective mirrors inside the telescope may have had some sort of special enhancement on the apparatus's ability, given it's a pretty powerful substance. If this is true after all, that could be a key part in the explanation to where this civilization went, but we're talking about Slone and her plan for the island. Using the apparatus and its abilities to see super far, possibly into other realities, she could be trying to search for help to save the island, or maybe even take a look and see if the last reality is on their way. Without this, Slone and the island are essentially sitting ducks waiting for disaster to strike once more. If you're wondering how the looking into the past thing is relevant, I figured I'd mention it as it seems to be a key part of the apparatus's purpose, whether that be for the past use of it or Slone's use of it. And it also seemed like a big part of what the apparatus can do, and I figured I'd just give you a full rundown on the apparatus just in case it becomes relevant in the future. And there you have it, everyone, Dr. Slone's story from the moment she was presumed dead to the future of what she'll bring by season 4. Keep it reaping.
It's Slone. Day number... still in the jungle. I think you know that it takes a little more than dropping a tank on me to take me out. I'll have to thank my rescuer. Hope he doesn't expect a fruit basket. I have a plan, but I'll need to move fast. The key to all of this is the people who left this jungle behind. We have a new wrinkle here. These ruins are impossible to date using traditional methods. I don't like it. And, of course, no sign of catastrophic damage. It's as if the residents just vanished. But before they did, they left a message. And I know, but I think I'm the one intended to find it. I've found what looks like an ancient, busted machine. It's a telescope, or some kind of stellar projector. I'll need to run scans. If this thing can do what I believe it can, it will be key to my plans for the island.
From what I can tell, the apparatus uses kinetic ore prisms to manipulate light. If my instincts are right, I need to get it working. Now, I've scoured the villages of the people who lived here. Their inventions, their writings. They used refined kinetic ore to create amazing technologies. They were scientists, visionaries. And now, all we have of them is relics.